This is Friendship Fridays, Friends with Benefits podcast. My name's Justin. This is Pansy. Welcome everybody to the show.
Welcome, everyone.
Uh, yeah, we've got a couple of special guests tonight. Carlos Villanueva and Chad Yesilova. They've been in the co-living space now for about 3 years. They've been doing very well for themselves, and I'm excited to bring them up and have a conversation with them. And we've got some good questions, so I'm excited for this. So let's bring them up. I'm going to bring up Carlos first here. Hello, Carlos.
Hey, Carlos.
There we go. I was on mute.
Thanks
Can you
for
guys hear
You're
joining
me?
us.
on mute. Of
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, guys, for having us on. I know we only
course.
met yesterday, right? And
I know.
we had an awesome conversation, and today we're on this podcast, which
It's
is really cool.
amazing. It's amazing how stuff works these days, right? And then I'm gonna bring up your partner Chad now too. Welcome, Chad.
Hey, Chad.
Hey
Thanks for
guys, great to meet
joining
you.
us.
Great to see you here. Great to
Thank
see
you for
everyone
coming.
here as well. So it's exciting to be
Yeah,
talking about something that brings us all together as well.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, thank you guys both for joining us. And like Carlos was saying, we literally just met the other day. We met yesterday, right? So and got into a conversation about co-living, and I'm fascinated with it, quite frankly. And I know you guys have been at it now for a little while. So I guess we can start. Pansy, do you have any questions in particular you want to start off with that you can think of? I've
Um,
got a bunch, but
you do? Well,
yeah.
if you have a bunch ready, go for it because it's probably questions that I would have too, but I'll let you ask some questions. And
Yeah,
then,
well, okay. All right. Well, so and forgive me, what particular markets are you? I'm gonna start there. What particular markets are you guys working in right now?
Mainly Texas and Florida. We have a house that we're closing on at the end of this month in Atlanta, so that's our first time going into Atlanta.
Okay,
Um,
great.
we're open to all major markets where co-living is in demand, and it's
So,
growing every day.
okay, okay.
then
Yeah.
this is what the questions you want to start with. We
No, no,
don't know
no.
anything about them yet.
No, no, no.
Let's
I'm
not talk
getting there.
markets yet.
I'm
Hey,
getting
let me ask
there.
a question.
Yeah.
Everyone's probably thinking as well, like, where does the name Friends with Benefits comes from?
Ask Pansy that question.
It's the benefits of having friends, really, right? Because we can do business together, we can help each other out, right?
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone
So it's
always loves a friend with benefit.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that
said to
and
Justin yesterday, I got to be careful which groups I'm joining because I invited him to the Facebook group. I'm searching Friends with Benefits on Google.
Well, we did that on
Yeah.
purpose.
Yes, we did.
Marketing, man. You
Yes, we
gotta
did.
you gotta make sure people you catch people's eye.
Yeah. I credit Pansy with that. She came up with the name, and I was like, that's perfect. Well, I don't know if I said that's
No, he
perfect.
did not. He's a liar.
I was like, do we? But then I thought about it and I was like, actually, I kind of like that name.
It grew on him after
Yeah,
a
it grew
bit.
on me. It grew on me. So to Pansy's point, which is right, talk to me about how you guys got started. I'll ask Carlos first. What really got you into this whole
Into real estate.
co-living real estate? Yeah. How did you
Yeah.
start?
So, I mean, I've been in real estate for 1.5 years.
Hmm.
All credit goes to my business partner I think it's on my right here, to Chad,
Hmm. Hmm.
because me and Chad have been business partners for a long time, close to 10 years, a
Hmm.
decade.
Hmm.
And we were in two previous industries together. The last industry, pretty much took us out three, if not four times. So we were in a
Wow.
position, we were building our active income within the solar industry. We would
Hmm.
get to a certain point and then something would happen. We'd go back to, close to ground zero. We would rebuild very quickly again, and then it would just
Hmm.
continue happening. So, we were so busy, we weren't really putting our heads above the water
Right.
and looking around and saying, hey, what's actually going on? And, it was, a situation that happened where Chad actually decided to move and start going into real estate full time. I stayed in the other industry while he was, experimenting within real estate,
Mm.
and I saw how fast, he grew, not only, as a person, in business, but actually, starting to purchase assets, something that we weren't doing in the past while we were growing our previous business. So I watched for a year and a half. I saw him purchase, how many properties was it, Chad? Like 21,
Oh
22,
yeah, 21 in 18 months. So
21
Wow.
in 18
yeah,
months, right? And,
Wow.
I was blown away. I
Yeah.
didn't really understand how it all happened, all through creative
Yeah.
financing.
Yeah.
But that, I had another blow within the industry, and that's when I said, all right, Chad, tell me what you're doing. Show me the way.
Show me the light.
Yeah,
Show me
show me
the
the
light.
way. And I have a sales and marketing background, so I joined the venture, and I'm the deal hunter. I make sure I always have deals at the table, and constantly growing our indestructible income, which is what how Chad's called it.
I love that. That's amazing.
How did you guys meet?
oh, so we met through the previous industry that we were in. So we were both in different companies, but I really loved Carlos's energy as well, and I guess it's common interests in mentors as well. So he was a big Cardone follower as well, Grant
Mhm.
Cardone,
Mhm.
and I was too. And because we were both in sales, and I was watching his content, he's always putting some great stuff out there.
Mhm.
So I gravitated towards his energy and said, okay, what can we do together?
Love that. Love that. So and what for you, Chad, what was it that made you gravitate towards real estate?
Well, I mean, from the previous industry that we were in, as Carlos mentioned,
Mhm.
the biggest blows were both um, COVID and then the interest rates going up.
Mhm.
So at that point, while we were actually really angry about everything that was going on, it was more about taking responsibility. So then that way we can control that situation, right? And the biggest issue was that we didn't have cash flow cash flowing assets. So
Right.
if we had another income source, we could have been in a great position where we could have acquired some great brands and given some great salespeople some new homes. Because when times are great, it's obviously really difficult to recruit. But when
Yeah.
times are bad, when these great salespeople are looking for a new home,
Mhm.
that's the time to strike. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
like everyone else, most other people within the industry, we were retreating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's difficult. And so
Yeah,
and it was the solar industry, both of you guys, just so I'm clear, right? The solar industry is what you guys were focused on or where you
correct.
you guys met, right? Yeah. So
Yeah, and before that industry was like international education.
oh, gotcha, gotcha. And
Yeah.
where are you guys? And let me ask you, Carlos. I'll start with you first. Where are you located? Where you reside?
Me or Chad?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Carlos. Sorry, Carlos.
So
Yeah.
right now I'm in South America. I'm
Okay.
living a nomad lifestyle. I'm
I love
actually
it.
in Medellin, Colombia. My wife is Colombian, so I came down here as part of my trips to the US around 3 years ago, and
Wow.
I fell in love, and I never left.
Love it. Love it. And then Chad. Sorry, I should have said your name first before I asked the question. But Chad, what about you? Where are you living
Miami.
at? Miami. Okay, love it. And
Yeah.
so that's a really interesting mix. So you guys are kind of doing this. One of you is kind of doing it remotely, and then the other's kind of boots on the ground here. Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah, so I mean, we're both actually doing it remotely in a sense that we do have properties in Texas and in Florida as well. I mean, while I live in Miami, the properties are, Orlando, Tampa.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
but the
Okay.
business that we had before was structured in a way where we were managing teams in many different states as well.
Got it. Got it.
So
Cool.
I'm looking at this, from a business perspective. I understand that, investing in your backyard or virtual is up for debate for a lot of people.
Hmm.
But for me, it was a business decision where I wanted to be able to like invest in any market where the numbers were actually really strong,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to
And
be limited.
no, that makes a lot of sense. And then, so Pansy, do you have anything? Do you have any follow-up questions for him on that?
Not at this moment.
Okay.
And I
Um,
guess just to add to what Chad said as well, in the previous industries, we've always done everything remotely, managed
mhm,
sales teams,
mhm,
administrative teams, the operations teams. And although
mhm,
we've had boots on the ground because we were installing across different states
mhm,
in Australia and also the US as well, it's just
mhm.
forced us to always think in a way where, hey, if we were going to do this, how do we do it in a way where we don't have to be there physically? And if we're going to
Right,
do it in that state, the
right.
systems are replicable in any other state that we want to move into as well.
Got it. Yeah, that's so huge. So for me, same thing. I can't, my backyard is Southern California. Southern California is one, really expensive, two, very competitive, and three, it's one of those states that you go somewhere else first and make your money and then come back to California. Or you got such amazing connections here that you can start here, but it's usually not that way for most people, right? So I had to be very kind of tactical about the markets that I chose, and but I would love to hear more kind of what that looks like for you for managing those remote teams. That's not an easy thing to do, right? And finding those teams to help you guys manage your properties in those different markets. That's an interesting subject in and all, by itself. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, what that looks like for you guys on a day-to-day basis, and kind of how you go through, that process of getting those boots on the ground in those areas that you're looking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess like, the first thing is that uh, I mean, going into the real estate industry, we wanted the cash flowing assets, right? So
Mhm.
initially, uh, it was it started with long-term rentals that do cash flow, but they weren't in appreciating markets.
Right.
And then we wanted to be in those appreciating markets as well, and which is why, we had initially selected Texas and Florida, and so being there, we said, okay, well, as a business, if we want to be in these different markets,
Mhm.
what would the constraints actually be, and how can we flip it, right? So
Right.
from a business standpoint, it was, just making sure that you put the right systems in place
Right.
where people would normally find constraints, right?
Right.
So, what we basically settled on were, three different layers, I
Mhm.
guess, of like eyes and ears. The first one is the maintenance person, right? So even like, they may assist with before any tenants move in, just repairing the properties and making sure that it is going to be rent ready.
Right.
And so they would become really familiar with who we are, what we do, how we work as well, and what standard that we actually require. So if tenants are mistreating the property, we would be informed by them, right? The second layer is, well, within co-living, it's the cleaner.
Mm.
So we get them to go in twice a month, and so that way, we're offering good value to our residents, and at the same time, they are our eyes and ears. If things are not going according to our plan, then we will be informed straight away. And the third one is within the property, we've got a co-living assistant as well.
Oh,
Just
interesting.
like a
Okay.
residential assistant in student housing, you've got a co-living assistant.
Right.
And so these people, I mean, all the tenants wouldn't know that this person is actually working with us, so they're a mole, so to speak, right?
Yeah, that's
And
smart. That's
yeah,
smart.
so then that way there's no resentment, no one's hiding anything from them either, so they can give us the inside goss.
Right.
And these people would be responsible for just very small things, right? So it could even be the batteries in a smart lock.
Right.
But more importantly, if dishes are piling up in the sink or policies are not being followed, they would let us know. And we've got a group chat as well. So that's an outlet for everyone. And if you don't have a group chat, you know, what can happen is people getting frustrated with one another,
Yeah.
but they don't have that opportunity to speak, voice
Yeah. They don't have an
themselves.
outlet. They don't have an outlet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with
Smart.
that, they'll let us know and we'll announce it into the group. So now everyone's on the same page. And if it happens again, what we find is that people become self-policing.
Interesting. I like
Yeah,
that. That's really smart. That's really
yeah.
smart.
So that's actually going to
Um,
be better than if we were there. But also
right.
just to add, I mean, if anything were to actually go wrong, we're being intentional about our roles as well, right? We
Right.
are business owners, we're investors.
Right.
And so it is really implementing the who, not how, right? So if something does actually go wrong, like a burst pipe, it's all well and good that it could be in my backyard and I could go there and stare at a burst
Mm.
pipe and water
Mhm.
gushing out, but I'm not going to know what to do,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So it's putting the systems in place to actually find the right expert who can actually do something about it straight away.
Yeah. That's
Especially you're planning to scale the portfolio, if you have, one property and you're learning that one property, yeah, great. Go to the property, learn, by touching and feeling. But then
Mhm.
once you're onto your second one, you want to be in the position where, you've got other people in the positions where if there's a pipe that bursts, you can send that person.
Right,
And then as you start scaling, you can
right,
scale people as well.
right.
Yes.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just to add to that, I think, as Carlos mentioned with the first property, you've got that opportunity to learn a lot. And as something becomes relevant, it's great because that's when you're going to absorb a lot of knowledge.
Yeah,
And so, I like to be the generalist in a sense that I like to know little bits of information here and there, but enough to give me that opportunity to identify a specialist and get the specialist involved.
that's really smart. Yeah, you
Mm.
know what? And it's about, yeah, getting the experience, but the whole goal is to make this thing at least semi-passive, right? It's never going to be fully passive, but you could get it pretty darn close, right? Just with the right people in place, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah,
mean, Uh, it really depends on the definition as well,
yeah,
what you're actually even looking for, because, we're constantly growing, so it's basically making ourselves redundant in one role, reaching up to another, and
yeah,
then taking on some new responsibilities as well. So, the vision is quite big. I see, people like Sam Zell, obviously has since passed away, but like, he
yeah,
built a $29 billion portfolio and sold it over to Blackstone,
yeah,
which is great. And that all started with student housing, which is very similar to co-living as well. So I think
yeah,
that within co-living, it's a great stepping stone. The outcome isn't how do we acquire more co-living properties. It's, as Carlos mentioned earlier, it's about how to actually develop that indestructible income stream.
right,
Right. So I
right.
think that there are three ingredients to that. And, the first one is replacing the active income, then diversifying. And the third one is incredibly important, but it's basically multiplying. Right.
Yeah,
So it's acquiring it's utilizing all the skills that you develop within co-living to then go into multifamily, partnering up with other experts, and then going into different classes as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But now you've got, so that this is the thing that a lot of people forget about is now you've got that experience that you can bring to lenders, you can bring to raising capital, you can bring to the table that's going to make that next jump into multifamily, into that next stage, that much easier, right? So it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, I
And
like that a
I'm
lot.
speaking from experience here because basically, like right now, I'm working on a 72 unit multifamily. We're raising $3 million for that.
Mhm, mhm.
And, I can definitely, say that the skills do transfer.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So let me ask you, so now you guys kind of both complement each other. Obviously, Carlos, you're the deal finder. You're the guy that's got the amazing sales experience. I mean, you both have sales experience, sales and marketing experience, but so you're the deal finder, and then Chad, you seem to be more the operations guy. Am I seeing that
Well,
kind of
more the
right?
investor,
More the
so
investing.
more
Okay.
like, yeah. So, I mean, it was basically my background as a stockbroker,
Okay.
where I
Okay.
developed that, investor mindset and being able
Yep.
to identify the right opportunities and moving on it.
Right.
So most
Right.
people have an apprehension if they, see the numbers, but in my case, it's like, hey, the numbers are great. Let's move forward straight away.
Right. Right. So big,
Yeah.
big on numbers. That's super important.
Which is
I
incredibly important in the operation because,
Yeah.
without the investor mindset, it's just a wholesale operation, just
Right.
finding a deal and flipping it,
Right.
flipping the paper.
Right.
Whereas with the, leading it with that investor mindset is, okay, so how do we transform this, so we're building our own portfolio, we're helping other people raise money, become partners for
Yeah.
now, future as well, and constantly like reaching up, as Chad said, towards multifamily and beyond, galactic.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pansy, do you have any follow-up questions you'd like to ask him?
No, you guys have been covering most stuff, so
Okay.
just kicking back and listening.
Good. All right. Well, so I really like the steps you've kind of laid out and the path you guys are going down. And by the way, what you just talked about, Carlos, I would say that, and I'm talking to all the wholesalers out there, if instead you took that investor mindset into your wholesale operation, you would be doing your buyers a better service. Not only are you helping yourself develop into an actual buyer, but you're now you're finding and bringing deals that maybe you would actually buy yourself, right?
Exactly.
Right? And
Yeah, it
so,
goes from being just a transaction to something a little more consultative as well, because you're
yeah,
looking at it, with the investor lens and saying, hey, you know what, this is actually such an incredible purchase. And you
yeah,
can convey that information to anyone else that you're speaking to, whether it's a buyer or an investor
yeah, yeah. And
raising
imagine,
capital.
well, and imagine like you've got this wholesaler, you've got, someone bringing deals. If you know that that person looks at every deal like an investor, how much faster are you going to open that email from that person,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because now you know, like, oh, this is going to be something, right? I know
It's a
this
way to
Exactly.
person.
separate
Yeah,
yourself as
yeah,
well. Like,
exactly.
as wholesalers going to be watching this, in the future, or if we have any wholesalers on here now,
Yeah,
if you're looking and negotiating these deals as an investor, then, number one, you're going to be able to negotiate a much better deal,
yeah.
and it's a way to and separate yourself from, becoming a, what's the word, commoditized in
Commodity. Yeah,
the sale
yeah,
market. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
I had a friend tell me a while ago, especially when I was first starting up. We were looking at deals, and it was essentially like, you know, a wholesaler had brought us a deal to JV on, essentially.
Mm.
And it wasn't a deal. It was just not a deal, plain and simple. And the wholesaler's question to us was like, or the wholesaler's question to my friend was like, well, can't you guys just like help me and just put it out there? Like, can't you put it out there to your network? And the answer was no. And he said, well, why not? Because we actually care about our buyers, right? We care about that relationship with our buyers. We care that relationship, all of our relationships. Why am I gonna, if I'm looking at it as an investor and I can clearly see that this is not a deal, right? The numbers don't make sense, what have you. Why am I going to share that? Why am I going to share that out with the people that I actually care about the relationship that I have with them, right? So,
And here's how you can actually add some additional value to the wholesalers. This is something that we do. It's kind of like a bit of a secret. So
mhm,
uh, like when we, because I saw a comment come through, can you share your buy box? And,
mhm,
whenever I share my buy box, I try to keep it as general as possible.
mhm,
So, 1,800 square foot, 3-2, and the major markets that we're in. And that's it,
mhm,
right? And,
mhm,
everything else, I don't really make it strict, like the interest rate, the entry fee, the parking, and everything else, because
mhm,
I know for a wholesaler, they're putting in a lot of work to find these deals. And I
mhm.
would rather just have volume and then help the wholesalers actually renegotiate the deals. Let's say it comes in at 8% and it's a seller finance deal, then I'll
Right.
know, okay, so this is negotiable, and I just need to build rapport with the wholesaler, show them how I can help them renegotiate the deal, and then, possibly they just bring me onto the call, renegotiate it down to 5% or 4%, and then, not only the wholesaler gets paid, but I've, found a deal that wasn't ever going to be a deal in the first place.
That's interesting. So well, I could spend an hour with you talking about that right by itself. No, that's amazing. That's great. And I know, look, some people are going to be open to that. Some wholesalers obviously have good relationships with your wholesalers, then that's not a problem. But some people are going to be open to that, some aren't, right? I guess it just depends.
Mhm.
But I like that. I like that mode of thinking there because it really is. It's just about collaborating. It's about helping each other out. It's not always like, hey, you bring me a good deal or we just don't do business. I want to see people succeed, right? Just like everyone, just like Pansy, just like you guys, and especially people who are new that are just getting into this and trying to learn the ABCs of all of this. That's what it's about, right? And I try and do that as well with folks that bring us deals. I try and talk to them and figure out like, where their mindset's at with this, right? And why, if it's such a bad deal that you're bringing me, what made you think it was a deal? Let's figure that out first, right? So we can, in the future, you can start looking and finding the right stuff, right?
There's
Uh,
more to it though,
yeah.
like it may not be a deal
Hmm.
in what with the current information, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that's why sometimes you need to actually be the one to make that phone call and get more information to
Yeah.
figure it out and see what you can really work with. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're really wanting to help the seller, then you're going to have to be willing to lend an ear and
Yeah.
listen, and
Yeah.
they'll tell you what they need and what you're working with. And
Yeah.
from there, you come up with something. It's not all about making all the money, though. I don't think
No,
it should all be about
that's
making.
true too. That's definitely true too. And I would say, Carlos, when you're renegotiating these things, or when you get into those situations where you want to help renegotiate it, um, are you looking, you're trying to find the problems that that seller has and trying to work out, find a middle ground somewhere, right? I mean, that's kind of how negotiations work, obviously, right? You're trying to find that middle ground. But are you negotiating mostly creative transactions? Is that kind of where your strength is?
Yeah, I mean, we're also buying using DSCR loans, and we're
Okay.
negotiating methods as well.
Okay. Okay.
But the main bread and butter up until now has been creative financed or creative structures.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, and those can be long conversations. That's not a one call conversation usually. Am I
No,
right? I mean,
no, no.
you're having multiple conversations with these people, and so that takes repetition. It takes a lot of like how many years were you doing solar for before you got into real estate?
Oh man, I got in 20 end of 2015, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's a whole conversational other
yeah, yeah.
podcast. But
Point
we
is,
we
yeah,
were knocking on a door,
mhm,
getting into the house right then and there. There was no previous appointment, nothing. We would literally knock on a door, get in the house, and we would
mhm,
sell anywhere from a 25,000 to it could be up to $100,000 system
mhm.
in a space of 2 or 3 hours. So
Wow.
we learned how to sell.
Yeah,
Now in real estate, it's a different level. Like real estate sales
yeah,
is something completely different. But
yeah,
um, you know, at the end of the
yeah.
day, we're just solving a problem, right?
That's
I
right.
think.
I was just gonna say, it is. I'm sure it's very different, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's about finding a middle ground. It's about solving a problem and finding a middle ground that everybody can agree to, and moving on. So let me move on here just a little bit. I'd like to talk about a little bit how you guys. I know you said Texas and Florida. I'd like to kind of understand how you guys determine a market, or what that looks like when you're looking into a market. Because obviously, are you looking to expand out from those two markets, or are you just going to stay, keep it there for
Oh,
now?
look, absolutely, certainly. I mean,
Yeah.
we would love to expand. I mean, because I did mention that, the plan is to get into multifamily as well. And so,
Hmm.
I'm not like there is absolutely no fear in entering
Hmm.
different states, but when we do enter a state, we do like to um I guess uh invest in getting to understand
Yeah.
exactly, you know, the market, the people, the requirements,
Yeah.
um, and all of those things as well. So,
Yeah.
and that's why we're really excited right now about Atlanta.
Oh, love it.
Spent considerable time as well in, Texas, and like, we like actually lived in like Dallas for a little while as well. So, and I
Yeah.
think that right now with everything that's going on, I mean,
It's a
uh,
buyer's market out there. It's a buyer's market in Austin. It's a buyer's market in a lot of these areas where before it was just it was unreachable, right? Like it just prices were going up so high, it made no sense. But now all of a
yeah,
sudden in a year's time, right? I think it's been a little longer than that, but about a year's time, a year and a half, now all of a sudden it's flipped, right? So,
exactly.
I mean, I can tell you Florida right now is a totally different market. It's a completely different market. The people have changed. It's when I think of Florida, I think of like retirees and, snowbirds and things like that, but it's totally shifted.
Yeah.
And you've got homes sitting on the market out there now. When before you couldn't keep the homes on the shelves. They were just flying off the shelves. Now it's completely flipped, right?
Yeah.
So and I'm curious, so what, like when you're looking at demographics, when you're looking at some of these economic indicators, like I know for us, a lot of disqualifiers, some of the disqualifiers we look at, it's like, is it in a flood zone? Is it in a growing market? Or, median household income? Is that, I mean, you guys kind of doing the same thing when you first get into a new market, or is there a
Yeah,
particular,
absolutely. I mean, we wouldn't
yeah,
invest in something that is in a flood zone as well.
right, right,
And
right.
generally when we do pick up a property, we try to stick to below the median house prices in the area as
Yeah,
well.
Yeah.
And we
Of
are
course.
dealing with the entry level properties as well. I know that some people like to deal with the luxury end, but
Yeah.
we wanted to be in a position where, we created that security, the really nice foundation. So then eventually we can take some moonshots.
Yeah, there you go. Love it.
Yeah.
So I know everybody, and I'm going to get into a little bit more of the co-living. We're about halfway in now, but I'm going to get into some more of the co-living questions specifically. And by the way, Pansy, do you have anything you want to follow up with?
No, I was just gonna say we should ask others if they have any questions.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, for those who are on the call right now with us, if you go ahead and raise your hand, we'll bring you up to ask questions as well. If you don't know how to do that, you just click on the react button at the bottom of the screen. If you're on a mobile phone, I think you need to, there's like three little dots you click on at the bottom and you should be able to see that menu. Or I think actually, no, you just tap on the screen. You should be able to see that menu and click on reactions and raise your hand and I'll bring you up to ask questions. So,
I do kind of have a question though.
sure.
You guys had said something about you've been business partners for 10 years and you've had several businesses that didn't go so well, but you kept going. So what made you keep going with this with each other, even though things haven't gone that well, you know?
Yeah. I guess it's not, it's events that we didn't really have control over. We both don't watch the news. And so when COVID hit, I assumed that the lockdowns would be something that may last about a week.
Yeah.
We were in the US when
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, and so we just had no idea. So when those
Yeah.
actually happened, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's continue grinding. And during that time, Carlos also had the dengue fever as well, and we had no idea. So he was taken to hospital. It's like, okay, could this be COVID or something? I'm not sure, right?
Yeah.
And so as things were actually being locked down, the I guess this is also what brought us together. It was that the 10x mindset, the Grant Cardone, what he actually teaches as well. I really, really love that because basically he's saying, create 10 times the problem and put in 10x the worth of effort as well to be able to
Yeah.
solve it,
Yeah.
right? And so we just saw everything as a challenge that we wanted to take on.
I like that.
Right? We don't go looking for the problems, but we wanted to be in a position where we can actually solve those problems.
Right.
Right.
That's amazing.
And so, but it just got to a stage where I just felt like a necessary ingredient was missing, which is the additional income stream.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And because we're dealing with a lot of egos within the sales industry, you're building sales organizations, right? There are a lot of salespeople, and some of these guys could be performing incredibly well. And you don't want to create an environment where, they throw their weight around.
Yeah.
So you're walking into the office and they've got their feet up and they feel like they can because
Yeah.
they're bringing in all the revenue. We didn't want to be held hostage by any of those salespeople either. So figured, okay, this is a necessary ingredient. It requires focus,
Yeah.
and now is the time.
I love it. That's amazing. Well, and I know, and you guys are managing teams right now, right? And you guys are managing, and how many teams are you managing total?
So we have the sales team, we have the property management side. Sales team is split up into different sections. What else do you manage, Chad? You've got the operations.
Yeah. So the way that we're actually structuring everything as well, we're essentially to be honest, the reason why that question is very difficult to answer is because I'll give you a very clear example. We were talking earlier about wholesalers and what Carlos does with the wholesalers. We don't just see them as wholesalers that are sending something, right? So we view everyone as a partner. And
I got
how do
you.
we build that long-term relationship, right? So if we're actually helping them massage a deal together and then come up with something a lot better that will allow us to transact with that individual, they know, okay, look, these guys are actually reliable. They're very easy to work with. Let me send them more deal flow, right? And our value as a result is going to increase in the marketplace as well if we can get those better deals, right? So, and for me, as part of multiplying and being able to raise capital is incredibly important. And the strategy there is obviously I want to build my investor network, and co-living is a great way to do that. While most people are actually looking at how do we give less to our investors and take more for ourselves because we've got to look after ourselves. Of course, like that is necessary in the beginning because you do have to be selfish. It's just like on a plane, you've got to put the mask on yourself before you put it on others.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But then
Yeah.
there comes a stage where it's like, okay, cool. Like I want my investors to
To start.
really get
Yeah.
a lot of value out of this,
Yeah.
right? And it's not just the monetary value as well. It's like, let's build that relationship. I want to really understand exactly what it is that you're actually looking for. Provide me with some feedback as well, because we want to
Yeah.
deliver that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so then they become referral partners for us,
So
right?
you guys are, I mean, like it's the whole thing is a team. Everybody's a partner. The whole thing is kind of built to where everybody who comes into our sphere, right, our universe becomes a partner and it's kind of looked at as you're kind of part of the team if
Absolutely,
we're
yeah.
doing this together. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean, my mindset is that, I mean, ideas are abundant, but
mhm.
trusted partners are scarce, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so, we really want to create abundance in trusted partners, and we understand that, I mean, true due diligence is time, right?
yeah,
So we want to make
yeah,
sure that we actually deliver,
yeah,
great results and success
yeah.
and
Well, because
happiness in
well,
that time.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that's incredibly important. I mean, and that's Pan. I mean, that was Pansy and I's when we started this whole thing. That's what it's about. Like friends with benefits. It's about building those relationships and building those. Not just about doing business. It's about having friendships too, right? And
Mm.
seeing these people, and not always. It doesn't always have to be about a business conversation, right?
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
Pansy's amazing at, I mean, just reaching out and just seeing how you doing. Like put the business over here for a second. Like how are you doing? You know, and that goes a long way. Just all by itself, it goes a long way. Just reaching out and seeing how someone's just how they're doing. You know,
oh, 100%. I mean, like life is short. Time goes by really quickly. And,
it does.
as much as like, I mean, the sole outcome isn't just making money. It's like, really having so much fun along the way as well. And so it
Right.
really helps when you do surround yourself with like-minded individuals who, each can contribute something a little different as well. So it's great.
Yeah.
Troy has a
Yeah.
I
question.
was just about to bring up Troy. So we do have someone that has a question. I'd like to bring Troy up to ask his question. Troy, how you doing, man? Let me bring you up here.
Troy
Hey,
is one
Troy.
of our friends.
Yeah, Troy is one of our friends.
How are you doing today?
Great. Try
Good.
yourself.
Not too bad. Got a rambunctious puppy again. Anyway, I was going to ask you, what's your take on co-living versus pad split?
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Well, I mean, look, I think that they're one and the same, but Pad Split is basically just a platform that offers marketing, employment verification, and credit checks, right?
Mhm.
And so I did initially start using Pad Split platform, and I think that they do have a place in the market, especially for anyone that's starting out looking to reduce their complexity. But after a while, we decided, I mean, because I've got investors involved, right? We've got KPIs around time, cost, and quality. We want to make sure that we get quality tenants in there as
Mhm.
quickly as possible. And I found that, we were sending, we were doing our own marketing
Mhm.
and sending them over to PadSplit website, hoping that they would come out the other end as an applicant. And but then, we were also doing the extra screening as well.
Mhm.
So I kind of thought, okay, like if we're doing all of this, why not just add the additional tasks
At the
to what we're
SOPs, right?
already. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
while I do, respect them as a company and they're, like they're essential for us and like, we actually, I mean, like when we're doing our underwriting and so forth, we see like,
Mhm.
where pad split is actually operating. And I do
Yeah.
believe that they have a place in the market, but in our case, we want to be a lot more hands-on and at the same time offer like uh more additional services to our investors as well, right?
Yeah.
And Troy,
Mm.
just to add to that, Pad Split is, they've got Mark Cuban as one of the investors. So they're spending a lot of money on their market research, consumer awareness. They're running ads. They're doing a lot of marketing as well. So they're doing a really, really big part in spreading the awareness around co-living. So for example, for what I use it for specifically, even though we don't use the actual platform to list, a lot of the underwriting comes from PadSplit because it's so easy. You can just jump on the map, look at
Yep.
the area, and it will literally tell you
Yep.
how many rooms are available, the average weekly rental, the average monthly rental, etc.
Yeah, but in addition
Doesn't.
to that, they've got a great legal team as well. And I understand that for some people, that, uh, I guess they're more compliant, right? So, and so, like, that legal team is going to be of huge benefit,
Yeah.
right?
That's
And
a
I think,
really
that,
interesting point. That's a really
yeah,
interesting point. I
yeah.
just
So
thought
I
I'd
think that
say
they've
that.
got like
Well,
they're a great contribution to, the proliferation of co-living right now.
Mhm.
And I think they play a big part in that, which I'm grateful for. And I think
Yeah.
that there are some things that they're actually changing within their platform as well. So just like how you would list in, for example, other websites like Facebook Marketplace, I think that they're making it available for you to just list there as well and use them if they're able to provide value. If they're not, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hey, the
So,
legal aspect is why I was asking because I found a lawsuit in Florida, as a matter of fact,
In
where a
Tampa?
co-living company
mhm.
got sued because they had too many people in a house, but it
Mm.
was strictly because of a complaining neighbor. When they initially set up the co-living house, they did everything by the book. They had the fire marshal come in. Then because of the person complaining, fire marshal came back and said, you can't have 6 people in the house. You can only have 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I am actually very like familiar with that one. And I think that as they were doing it as a business, all their addresses were listed on their website as well, and so they were targeted, I believe, and made an
Yeah.
example of.
Mhm.
So I believe, like, as part of what I mentioned earlier about indestructible income stream, right? Like, you've got it under different LLCs, and you've got different
Mhm.
properties in different areas as well. So for me, my Tampa property, I mean, the area was hit by a hurricane, and
Mhm.
probably no different to a fire marshal, right? And so it could have completely wiped out the whole thing. But
Mhm.
we were quite fortunate, and so it is still operating right now as well. Um, but all of that being said, I think that the laws are trending towards making this a legal thing, right? Just Google frat house bill Texas
Mhm.
and read some of the articles there about how things are actually progressing.
That's really interesting. And by the way, I was just going to mention that the co-living model has obviously picked up steam over the last few years, but also with the affordability crisis going on in the United States.
Exactly.
I mean, there's not only is it sort of hits both sides. Not only is it a way for investors to to see gains and to see returns on their money, but it also brings to the market more housing, more availability of housing and
Exactly, yeah.
affordable housing. So yeah,
And
there's
as time goes on, and as more people find out about it as well, the demand is going up. Like
yeah,
we've personally seen, like firsthand over the last couple of years, we've seen the trend going
yeah.
up. We've had, one of our properties or even some of our properties where, there was a time a long time ago we were like, where are we going to get people? Where are we going to
Mhm.
market to, get more tenants for these properties? Now, we're getting, it's like overbooked. Like there's people coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're getting thrown at you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
I
So
have
speaking of that, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
say I have one extra question regarding the legality. I don't know if you want me to mention it or not. The uh was it Legal Shield using
Yep.
them?
Mhm. What and
Uh,
what's the question, Troy?
Would Legal Shield in the instance that I mentioned be of assistance? Where if you didn't have past split going to court for you,
yeah.
please.
I mean, like, I guess it could be. What I would recommend is, just speaking to different real estate attorneys because you're going to get differing opinions on how they interpret the law and what they actually believe as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's whoever that is willing to actually fight for you and back whatever you've got in place as well. I know that some people, for example, have got lease agreements, other people have got membership agreements. Padsplit is offering the membership agreements as well. So it comes down to many different things. So that's why I would recommend speaking to a real estate attorney who is, familiar with
Yeah.
your business and whether or not, they interpret it the same way and willing to fight for it.
Yeah, always good advice. I
Yeah.
was gonna say, and Troy, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
bet. Thanks for, by the way, thank you for coming up and asking the question. So I had a follow up really quick. Speaking of tenants, and I know this is probably a big question you guys get quite a bit. Is what does that look like for what's your ideal tenant? And what does that screening process look like for you guys to
Yeah, the
get
ideal
those
tenants
proper tenants?
I mean, it could be anyone on fixed income, and usually,
Mhm.
they could be retirees, and traveling professionals, young professionals, divorcees. You've got blue collar workers, hospitality workers.
Yeah,
So I mean, it is a mixed bag,
yeah,
and so the typical question that I get from investors are like, who in their right mind would want to share a house with complete strangers? Well,
yeah,
it's a very broad spectrum.
yeah,
And as Carlos mentioned as well, that demand is certainly increasing because the conversations we're having today were very different to when I started, right?
yeah, yeah,
So the knowledge of this is going mainstream as well, which is great. And, the screening process is, I mean, look, while they may not necessarily qualify as a long-term rental, I find that anyone between like 550, 600 credit score is actually perfect for something like co-living because they want to make that effort to really increase their credit score as well.
yeah. That
Right. So
makes
they're the
sense.
ones that are actually willing to stay a little longer as well.
Yep.
Sometimes like, 12 months or so or more.
Hmm.
And but we don't, I mean, we do a full background check, right?
Sure,
I
sure.
mean, if someone has like an eviction on their record and it's a while back and like, the story matches up with anything that we actually find, then, we are flexible in that sense. But if someone has, any violence or something like that within their background, then it's a hard no because you've got multiple personalities under the one roof, and we don't
Yeah,
want to risk
that's
that.
yeah. Actually, Troy
Yeah.
had put something in the chat that I think I want to because this is an interesting question. Have you found anywhere that will allow you to do a rent by the room for Section 8? I haven't heard of anything like that before, but
Pretty cool.
yeah, that would be
Yeah,
pretty cool, right?
It would
but
be. Yeah, it
I've
would be. And I
I
think
thought
that
I heard something from someone
Hmm. About
about
Section 8, yeah.
some type of um, other program. There's more programs out there through the HUD programs in
Yeah,
each individual county and everything that many of us don't know about.
right.
The best thing you can do is start getting curious, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good piece of advice right there. Yeah, yeah, do a little bit of the research, I would say, but and also you'd have to talk to maybe have a phone call with the HUD and find out what, and I know they post Section 8 requirements and regulations. That's all online, and you can find that relatively easily. But that's an interesting thought. So for you guys, when you place these tenants, because it's and again, you're giving people an option that they wouldn't have otherwise had, right? So I'm sure a lot of those folks, especially if you do your due diligence, you screen, you check their background and all that. But most people are just happy to have a roof over their head and to have that option, to have that opportunity. So I'm sure they're not interested in messing that up, right?
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they love the convenience.
Yeah.
I had a conversation earlier today with a potential investor, and he said, "Look, if you're charging, $800 or $850 a room in an area where a studio apartment could be $1,000, why would they go
Mm-hmm.
for the room and not for the studio apartment?" I said, "Dude, it's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason why. If I'm looking to rent a studio apartment or a one bedroom apartment, not only do I need to come up with the first month, I need to come up with the last month. There's a security deposit. I need to go through a whole bunch of vigorous checks.
Mm-hmm.
I need to furnish the house as well. I need to get utilities under my name. So it's not just the $1,000 that they need to come up with to move into the house. There's a whole list of expenses that comes with, you know, renting a property, and they have to sign it for, they got to commit for 12 months at
Right.
minimum, you know?
Right.
Whereas
So
with
what
something
kind of,
here-
so some of these more niche co-living, they offer different services, and like Pad Split, I believe, offers different services too through their um website or whatever for people that stay at their houses. Do you also try to help people with other types of services?
Look, we don't. It's not within our business model, aside from being able to offer that convenience. And so we'll listen to what our tenants have to say, which is why we've got that co-living assistant as well in the house. And all of those things really helps with retention. But there are other peers within the industry as well who are, you know, servicing different niche groups as well, and they're doing quite well out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this has been, we're getting a little bit towards the end of the show now, but I just want to say this has been really good wealth of knowledge. And by the way, if people want to get a hold of you, I know, do you guys have like a mentorship or a course or anything that you guys are doing to help people getting into this, or is
Office
it?
hours, anything?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I mean, no mentorship, but basically, Carlos and I are going live every single day within our Facebook group as
great.
well. And so, from all the conversations that we're having on a daily basis, you know, I mean, we're not short of topics to cover. Put it
Oh,
that
I'm
way,
sure
right?
that's true.
Yeah,
I'm
Us
sure
too,
that's true.
you know, so
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
we'll do this. I'll make sure to put your Facebook group in the description for people who are watching this later. For folks in the Zoom with us right
yeah, and
now.
your buy box information, people were asking, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
uh,
absolutely. I
Um,
mean, we'll basically pin that to the top as well within the Facebook group.
yeah,
yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Well, yeah, let's get that out because I know there's plenty of people that are gonna wanna have a chat with you guys about this. But Carlos, Chad, I really appreciate you guys being on here and sharing some of your wisdom and knowledge with us. It's fascinating. Co-living has always been something that's been fascinating to me, and I've always been kind of interested in that and exploring that. So appreciate all the knowledge and wisdom, and thank you for showing up, and we got to do this again. I'd love to
absolutely.
talk to you guys again and see where you're at in another year. I'm sure you guys are going to be just doing this. So
Now, grateful
yeah,
to be connected, and thanks for having us as well.
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
yeah. Thanks for coming on and sharing your wisdom and knowledge, and we'll have to have you back again,
Yeah,
like
we will.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
another like maybe 6 months or something. We'll all catch up again.
Sounds
And I'm
good.
sure we'll speak before then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
For
All right,
sure.
guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it for Pansy and Justin, Friends with Benefits podcast. Thank you guys for showing up.